Let's get you and your baby warm.
Thank you so much.
Let me help you stand up. There is a cafe right here.
You are so kind.
Single dad saw a young mom shivering with her baby. What he did next changed their lives. The young mother was standing beneath a flickering streetlight, shivering so badly that she could barely keep her newborn wrapped against her chest. Her thin jacket was soaked from the freezing rain, her lips had turned pale, and the baby in her arms had stopped crying, not because the child was comfortable, but because she had become too weak to cry. Across the street, a single dad named Daniel Carter noticed them while carrying groceries home with his 8-year-old daughter. He stopped mid-step when he saw the mother trying desperately to shield her baby from the cold with her own body. What Daniel did next would cost him the little money he had left that night, but it would also change 3 lives forever. Daniel had learned the hard way that some moments in life do not give you time to calculate what is convenient. 5 years earlier, he had lost his wife after a sudden illness, leaving him to raise his daughter Emma alone. Since then, every dollar he earned as a delivery driver had been carefully divided between rent, groceries, school expenses, and the endless little costs that came with raising a child. He lived in a modest apartment on the edge of town, drove an aging car that sometimes refused to start, and kept a small emergency fund hidden in a kitchen drawer for situations he prayed would never come. He was not rich, powerful, or important. He was simply a father trying to give his daughter a safe childhood despite everything life had taken from him. That evening, Daniel had only $23 left after buying groceries. He had been planning to use it for breakfast supplies and gasoline the next morning, but when he looked across the street again, those plans suddenly seemed insignificant. The young mother was standing beside a closed bus shelter, desperately rocking her baby. A torn diaper bag rested at her feet, and beside it sat a small cardboard box containing everything she seemed to own. Emma followed her father's gaze and quietly asked why the woman looked so cold. Daniel did not have an easy answer. He only knew that walking away would teach his daughter something he never wanted her to learn, that another person's suffering could be ignored simply because helping them was inconvenient. Daniel crossed the street and approached carefully, making sure not to frighten her. He asked if she and the baby were okay and learned that her name was Lily and the baby was only 3 months old. Lily had been trying to reach her sister in another city after leaving an unsafe living situation, but the last bus had already departed. Her phone battery had died, she had almost no money, and the shelter she had called earlier was full. She had spent the previous night sitting in a hospital waiting area because she had nowhere else to go, and now she had been standing outside for hours hoping someone might help her find a safe place for the night. If you believe kindness still matters and that everyone deserves a second chance, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to SoulTales. Sometimes a simple act of kindness can become the beginning of a completely different life. Daniel looked at the baby and noticed how cold the child's tiny hands felt. Without hesitation, he took off his own heavy jacket and carefully wrapped it around Lily and the baby. Lily immediately tried to refuse, but Daniel insisted that she keep it. He then looked at the groceries in his hands and realized that the decision was already made. He handed the bag to Emma, took out his wallet, and counted the remaining money. $23. It was not much, but it was enough for a warm meal and perhaps a few baby supplies. He took Lily to a nearby diner, where the warmth immediately began to return to her face. Inside, Lily ate slowly at first, almost as if she had forgotten what a hot meal felt like. Then she began crying silently. Daniel did not pressure her to explain everything. He simply sat across from her while Emma colored on a paper napkin beside them. After a few minutes, Lily admitted that she had not eaten since the previous afternoon because she had used her last money to buy formula for the baby. Daniel pushed his own untouched meal toward her, but she shook her head. He quietly told her that he had already eaten. It was not true. He had not eaten since breakfast. Later that night, Daniel made another decision that frightened even him. He called the local emergency family shelter and discovered that they could take Lily and her baby if someone could transport them across town. Daniel's car was nearly out of fuel, but he drove them anyway. Halfway there, the engine began making a terrible noise, and Daniel realized the car might break down. He pulled over, opened the hood, and stared at the aging engine while Emma and Lily waited inside. He knew that if the car died, he would have no money to repair it. For a moment, Daniel felt the weight of every responsibility pressing against him. He had his own daughter to protect. He had rent due in 4 days. His car was his only source of income. Helping Lily could create problems he could not afford. But then he looked through the windshield and saw Lily holding her sleeping baby against her chest, finally warm beneath his jacket. Daniel closed the hood and drove on. They reached the shelter shortly before midnight, but another problem waited for them. The facility had unexpectedly reached capacity. Lily's face collapsed when she heard the news. She had nowhere to go, and the baby needed warmth immediately. Daniel stood outside the building for several seconds, thinking about his apartment. It was small, and there was only one spare mattress in the living room. He knew bringing a stranger home carried risks, but he also knew he could not leave a mother and infant outside in freezing weather. So Daniel made the most difficult decision of the night. He brought Lily and her baby home. The apartment was cramped, but warm. Emma gave Lily a clean blanket, while Daniel prepared a bottle of warm formula from the small supply he had bought earlier. Lily sat quietly on the couch, overwhelmed by the simple safety of being indoors. She apologized repeatedly for causing trouble, but Daniel reminded her that needing help did not make her a bad mother. For the first time in months, Lily felt as though someone saw her not as a problem, but as a human being. The next morning, Daniel's car would not start. He called his employer and explained the situation, expecting to lose the day's work. Instead, his supervisor told him that several coworkers had heard about what happened and wanted to help. One mechanic offered to repair Daniel's car for free. Another employee collected baby clothes. Someone else brought diapers, formula, blankets, and groceries. By afternoon, a small pile of donations had filled one corner of Daniel's apartment. But the biggest surprise came when Daniel discovered that Lily had been hiding something. She was not helpless because she lacked ability. She had once worked as a licensed medical assistant and had been saving money to return to work after her baby's birth. Her previous partner had controlled her finances and destroyed her identification documents when she tried to leave. She had been trying to rebuild her life from nothing. Daniel helped her contact the proper agencies, replace her documents, and apply for temporary assistance. Weeks passed, and Lily slowly began standing on her own feet again. She found part-time work at a medical clinic while a childcare program helped care for her baby. Daniel never asked for repayment. He only reminded her that someday, when she was strong enough, she should help someone else the way she had been helped. Months later, Daniel was sitting in the same diner where he had first bought Lily dinner. Emma was beside him, and Lily walked through the door wearing a professional uniform with her baby now sitting happily in a stroller. She had come to tell Daniel that she had been offered a full-time position at the clinic. She was finally renting a small apartment of her own, and for the first time since her daughter was born, she had a place she could call home. Daniel smiled when Lily handed him a small envelope. Inside was the exact amount of money he had spent that freezing night. But there was something else inside, a photograph of Lily's daughter, now smiling brightly. On the back, Lily had written that one cold night had taught her that kindness could still exist in a world that had made her afraid to trust people. Daniel never considered himself a hero. He believed he had simply done what any parent would hope someone would do for their own child. But Emma remembered that night differently. Years later, she would tell people that her father taught her the most important lesson of her childhood without ever giving a speech. He showed her that you do not need wealth to change someone's life. Sometimes you only need to notice someone who is hurting and decide not to walk away. If this story touched your heart, please support the video with a like, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe to SoulTales for more emotional stories about hope, compassion, and second chances. Your support may help this story reach someone who needs the reminder that their darkest night does not have to be their final chapter. Before the story ends, comment, "Kindness still matters," if you believe one compassionate decision can change a person's entire life. And perhaps that was the real miracle of that freezing night. Daniel thought he was only giving a young mother a jacket, a meal, and a safe place to sleep. He never realized that his kindness would help Lily rebuild her future, teach his daughter what true compassion looked like, and create a bond between two families that neither of them could have imagined. Sometimes life changes not because someone gives us everything we need, but because someone sees us at our lowest point and simply refuses to let us face it alone.